2 million years ago, the darkness was lethal. We were slow, weak, and highly vulnerable to the predators hunting just outside our field of view. For most of our history, humans survived strictly as hunter-gatherers. There were no stockpiles or safety nets. Every waking moment was a reaction to the threat of starvation. Staying in one place meant running out of food. A group would quickly strip a local area of edible plants. To get meat, they had to pack up and track migrating herds of wild cattle and deer. They were completely tethered to the environment's rhythms. They moved to find specific trees that only bore fruit during certain seasons. And when the dry months hit, they abandoned their camps to chase retreating lakes and rivers. Early human life was a repetitive loop, a continuous, exhausting struggle to track down enough calories to survive until sunrise. The first break in that loop came during the Paleolithic era. Instead of simply fleeing the environment, humans began to reshape it. By striking stones together to craft tools, they gained a mechanical advantage. These sharp edges reduced the hours required to butcher a kill or dig for deep, calorie-dense roots. They brought these tools into natural rock shelters. The thick limestone walls provided consistent protection from the wind, allowing the body to spend less energy maintaining heat and more on recovery. Inside places like the Kernol Caves, the discovery of fire provided light and the ability to cook. Cooked food was easier to digest, further maximizing the nutritional value of every meal they secured. These combined efficiencies, faster processing of meat and better thermal protection, began to create small gaps in the survival schedule. In those moments, humans turned observation into art, painting their world onto the walls. Stone tools and controlled fire allowed humans to begin manipulating nature. But even with these tools, they were still chasing their food across the continent. Around 12,000 years ago, global temperatures began to rise. The intense cold of the Ice Age retreated, thawing the landscape. Warmer weather triggered the spread of vast grasslands. With more grass available, herbivore populations exploded. Deer, sheep, and goats rapidly multiplied across the plains. Humans followed these growing herds. They spent generations observing them, learning exactly what these animals ate, when they bred, and how they migrated. While tracking the herds, they noticed how wild grasses reproduced. The seeds that fell to the dirt naturally sprouted into entirely new stalks of grain over time. In the northwest, around the Suleiman and Kirthar hills, humans began to intervene in this process, intentionally planting wheat and barley for the first time. This wasn't isolated. Further south, north of the Narmada Valley in Koldiwa, groups were independently learning to cultivate rice. By planting their own food, humans anchored themselves to the land. They no longer had to follow the herds. The food was now growing where they stood. Staying in one place created a new vulnerability. A permanent stockpile of grain was an open invitation for wild, hungry predators to attack the settlement. To manage this, they offered crop scraps to docile, grass-eating animals. Sheep and goats were slowly drawn in, forming the first controlled livestock herds. Yet the first animal they fully domesticated was a fierce carnivore, the wild ancestor of the wolf. The arrangement was based on mutual survival. Wolves ate the village waste, and in return, their heightened senses provided a biological early warning system, alerting the humans to any large predators approaching in the night. This wasn't about companionship. It was a security alliance that made the shift to permanent settlement viable. Once seeds were in the ground, the mobile tents of the past were no longer practical. Settling meant building for the long term. In freezing climates like Kashmir, builders excavated deep pits into the earth. These pit houses used the surrounding ground as natural insulation, allowing humans to stay stationary even through the most brutal winters. This permanence changed how humans treated their dead. At sites like Mehrgar, they replaced simple abandonment with formal burial rituals. Graves began to include goats and dogs alongside the deceased. This suggests a growing belief that the life they had built in the settlement would continue in some form.
Stationary
after
life
death.
led to a surplus of
Stationary
food.
life led to a
For the first
surplus
time,
of food.
not every
For the
person
first
in a
time,
group had to
not
be a
every
full-time
person in a
hunter
group
or
had
farmer.
to be a full-time
This
hunter
surplus
or farmer.
allowed for
This
specialized
surplus
roles,
allowed for
builders,
specialized
potters,
roles,
and eventually
builders,
the engineers
potters,
who
and
constructed the
eventually the
cities we live in
engineers who
today.
constructed the cities
Every
we live in
piece of
today.
modern technology
Every
is a
piece of
direct
modern
descendant
technology
of that
is a
original
direct
surplus.
descendant of that original surplus. We only have the time to build the world because thousands of years ago, we decided to stop running and finally put down roots.